Hi everyone. On my desk this morning is a very large mess. I've been busy making an album. One of my family members had a 70th birthday and we pulled out all the old family photos and I made a lovely album, and she is thrilled with that and is showing it to everybody. Very interactive, lots of things that flip and slide and hidden things and photos everywhere. And this manila folder here is the mess that's left from making that. All sorts of bits and pieces in here. Signature, these would work as signature pages, all vintagey theme. Lots of bits and pieces of paper and cut-offs and doilies and all sorts of bits and pieces, card and scrapbook paper. So rather than try and put everything away, I thought I'd try and make something that I can share with you guys. It's not full of personal photos. So I sort of cleaned out a few things. These are some more vintagey papers that I've had tucked away in a set of drawers. I purchased the drawers on Facebook and the lady left all of her stuff in there. So I've no idea where it is or what it came from, but I've sorted it all out and tried to pull all the vintage stuff out. I've got an old book that's had all the pages torn out of it. This is what's remaining, and I thought those covers might be useful. Years ago I bought another set of card making supplies, and I'll pop a photo here for you. And these papers are in a drawer. They're neutral and fairly thick. I'd say they're around 160 GSM or something like that, in the neutral theme. I've got a whole lot of stuff in this envelope left from making vintage ephemera that I've shared with you. These are the Studio 19 digital papers, so all in the vintage theme. And in one of the Facebook groups we share things that we've made, and I've pulled a lot of the spare ephemera out because I used it in the album that I made recently, and these didn't fit. So I've got lots and lots of bits of pieces of things that I intended to use one day. So, and again, they're all in the vintage theme. Lots and lots of different bits and pieces. Some I've made, some others have made. Some I pulled out and didn't use. So I've got all of that stuff. And this was, I think this was from Witchcraft Do You Do website, and it was a free download, and I made stuff years ago and that's just left over. So I've got all of this stuff, and I figured what I'd try and do is make my own sort of spin on like a Rosa Kelly style mini album, but sort of have it as a junk journal combined. So that's what we're starting with. I've got a whole lot of mess, and what I thought I would start doing is pretty much just trying to figure out how to use what I've got. And I've got a whole lot of envelopes as well that I've collected, and just try and make it into something useful. And so the other thing I've got now is my family member pulled out this gigantic box of photos, which I haven't even gone through yet. So this might actually turn into a bit of a family album that goes back to great grandparents. And so I thought I'll make it, and the papers that I put in can use to write stories and memories and things in it. So it gives it a real purpose. I don't know how it's going to come together, but I thought I'll turn the camera on and let you have a look at what I'm doing, and if it works I'll publish it. My little dog is asleep at my feet because it's 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning and it's a bit early for him. So what I thought is I'll just show you how to make one of these pages, and I'm making it just to suit the paper. So this paper here is just standard A4 paper, so it's 8 1/4 by 11 3/4, and I'm just going to cut it down. I don't want the book to be any wider than 8 inches wide, so I'm going to leave the paper the height of the book as it is. I might actually make it a square and cut it, so that was 8 1/4. So I might cut this piece to 8 1/4, so I'm making square pages. And so that will be, if you've seen Rosa Kelly's work, she basically makes a envelope and then this part will tuck into the hinge. So if that's 8 1/4, then I need 1/2 inch either side for the base piece, so I'll make that 9 1/4. And I'll do this for all of them. So that's the 9 1/4 one. And I just want to score 1/2 inch on both sides. And then all that will happen is that this piece will glue on top of that piece, and then this will become an envelope, and I'll just seal that with double-sided tape. And then that's the base page that a hinge will be seated here, and it will glue onto the hinge, and that will be the base page. So I'll just put double-sided tape on both of these side pieces. And in the last journal I made, I ended up with 6 of these base pages, and that worked really well, but I might do less than that. I'll see how I go, because what I want to do is make this sort of a combined mini album come junk journal, because I've got so much stuff here. And so I might try and hinge like feature pages, hinge some of the papers that I've got and the signature pages, and make it like a combination. So just trying to square this off and line it up. So I'm just grabbing that top corner, making sure that everything stays lined up. So that's given me a square and an envelope and a nice sturdy base page that will eventually end up being hinged on one side, and then the other side can be left open to be a pocket or can be sealed up depending on what you do to it. Then any of the offcuts, just hang on to these because they will be very useful. So I've got some thinner and thicker ones, so I'm just going to leave them all sitting there. And then I know, in my case, I know that I want to make a couple of parts that can be used as signatures, because I've got all of those papers sitting there. So what I might do is maybe decide, I've got 5, so if I do 3 signatures that add in, I'll work this out as I go. So I basically want this piece to slot inside the open end like that, have a spine wide enough for a signature and fold back over to fit that in. So I'll find my bundle of papers. So these are, to give you an idea, these will all be made into signatures and will flip over like that. So I want, maybe if I make a 1/2 inch spine, I can adjust that if needs be. And then the width of all of these, if I add enough room for a tab, I'll leave a 1/2 inch in case I want to add things that stick out. So I want it to be 6 inches that opens that way, and then I'll add a 1/2 inch, so 6 1/2, and then I want a 1/2 inch to tuck in. So I'm going to cut this at 7. Just make one and see if it works. So I want a 1/2 inch that's going to fold inside, and a 1/2 inch that's going to be the spine. The bit that's going to tuck inside, I'm just going to snip a little bit off both ends just to make it easier to get it in. And I'll put my double-sided tape on. And so that will now tuck inside the end nicely. I'm not going to glue them in yet because I want to stitch the signatures on. It will be much easier to do that when it's not attached. That leaves me with some nice size offcuts. And I've still got a nice pile of that. So, let me see, with the offcuts, everything's the right height. So on a page that doesn't have one of those signatures on it, I'm just going to make that a gatefold. I'm just seeing what I've got in the overlap there. So I've got an inch. So if I make a 1/2 inch score on both of these offcuts, that can be a gatefold. I'm very conscious of the fact that as I'm making this, I'm making more scraps, which is what I'm trying to avoid. So we'll see how that goes. But hey, there's no way of making a junk journal without making scraps, I don't think. So that will be a gatefold. It's going to go like that with that piece of scrap. So that's one, and then on the other one, I've got all of these bits and pieces left over, so I'm just dividing them by size. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thin, thicker ones and 5 thinner pieces. So with these thicker ones, they're all the same offcuts. What I might do is use 4 of them to make flips, photo flips. And so I'm just going to score 1/2 inch on each end. And then I'll grab some paper clips. So this is one of the ones that doesn't have a signature on it. And so I'll just clip things roughly into place, and I can use the double-sided tape later. So that one will flip up, that one will flip down, and then these ones will flip side to side. And they can tuck in there. And I'm just trying to leave the same distance from the edge of the page to where the photo flip starts. Okay, so that's one. The gatefold one I will clip in as well. So on this gatefold one of these other pieces is the right side to be, once those open, for that to be a pocket. We'll tuck something in, so that can just sit in there and be a pocket. Right. So the next thing I want to think about is how this is all going to come together. And so I will make a piece that will hinge these pages on. So I'm just going to take a little bit off this, just about 1/4 of an inch. And that way, when these are hinged on, that will easily fit in. So to make the hinges, I've drawn this up just to sort of explain what was in my head. I want to make the spine with the hinges on it that the pages will sit on. And so I've left 2 inches, which will be, that 2 inches will be the beginning of the spine, and this part will be glued to the cover when I make the cover for the album. So I've left 2 inches to be glued to the cover, and I've made 5 of these base pages, and so to make, for 5 hinges, I'm going to need about a 2.5 inch spine. So I'll explain how I scored it on my board and why. So each one of these base pages is going to need to be attached to the hinge, which will slot into there, and I'm going to leave 1/2 inch for that to grab that page. And so this is going to be my cover, basically. That part will be the side of my album, and I don't want the hinge immediately beside the cover. I'm leaving a little gusset here. So I've left 3/8 of an inch, and on my scoreboard I've just gone 1, 2, 3 and scored. That's my gusset. And then for each hinge I need a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and then another gusset. So between these 2 lines you can see that's going to be the hinge. And I've made a start on mine. I'll explain that, hopefully you'll get what I'm talking about. So here's the part, here's the 2 inches that's going to be glued to the cover. So this will sit like this, and then there's a little space here. That's that 3/8 of an inch, and then this is the first hinge. So I've got 1/2 an inch either side. You can see I've got 1/2 an inch scored there, and if I bend that there, and then this little 1/8 of an inch here, so that when I put my pages on, that has that little bit of leeway so the album can lie flat. It gives it an extra little bit of room. Basically, to get this whole piece from start to finish for my 5 pages, I left 2 inches, and then I've got, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hinges, and there's a 3/8 of an inch gusset either side of the hinges and on both ends so that it fits into the front cover. And so all I did was I scored my 2 inches, and then I just did a pattern of counting the slots. So I did 1, 2, 3 for the gusset and scored, and then I did 2 and scored, and then 4 and scored, 4 again and scored, and 2. So 3 for the gusset, then 2, 4, 4, 2. That's spine 1, and then 3 for the gusset, 2, 4, 4, 2, and repeated that. I ran out of room on mine, and so when I got to the end here, you can see on this one I only had a tiny little bit left, and that's not enough for it to hinge to the cover. Hopefully you can see there I've just added this end, it was. So that was the little bit that I had left, just finishing here. And then I just used double-sided tape and used one of the leftover pieces to add some extra length to it so that I've got something to hinge to the front and back covers. So hopefully that will help you. And then if you're not going to count the slots on your scoreboard, I've just got, these are in inches, 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, 1/2 an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. And that will give you 1 hinge. So just repeat that process, and you can add bits to the end and make as many hinges as you think you need, or reduce it if you don't want as many as I've got. And to attach the last page, I've got double-sided tape, and only on the 1/2 inch part. So this is my gusset here. I'll get out of the way for you. This is the gusset here. This is my little 1/4 of an inch there and there that I'm leaving free, so I'm not putting glue on that. And so to add this last page, I'm using a small bit of score tape and then a little bit of wet glue, and that just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And then just on one side, just remove the score tape just on the one side. And I want this page with the opening to slot onto this and to sit just at the end of the score tape, and leaving that 1/4 inch there to bend. So I'm just going to slot that on and sort of get it into the position that I want, which is about there. And then to make sure my pages align, I'm just using the scoreboard to line everything up, keep everything nice and neat so that they are all sitting on straight. When I'm happy with that, I just press that one side down and then flip it over and remove that other little bit of score tape. And then score that down. So there, my base page is ready to go. I've got a little gusset at either side. Hope you can see that clearly. And then when this is ready to glue in to the cover, I'm going to be putting glue. These are my two bits, front and back cover. I will put glue or double-sided tape along that whole back section and glue that on to the spine. But I won't do that now, so that gives me my 5 pages ready to work with. And now I've got these little extra bits, but I think I'll call that part 1. So that's basically building the base, and then we'll start in the next. I'll make another video and show you how I add all the extra little bits and pieces together to make it way more interactive.